Chieftain, ladies and gentlemen, lassies and lads. I am, of course, humbled and honored to be asked by our captain to give tonight's toast to the immortal memory of our bard, Robert Burns. I admit to a moment of panic when first being asked, because this is a monumental task and it's such a huge honor after all. But after that subsided, I decided I'd approach this as an academically trained PhD in quantitative social sciences, which I am. So, I took a science-based approach using modern tools. I used a convolutional neural network and natural language processing to do, in essence, a factor analysis of all of Robert Burns' poems, songs, and letters from over 250 years ago. You with me so far? Yes. So, sorting through all of that, my AI identified 4 major themes in the work of Robert Burns: life, liberty, lassies, and love. So let's call them the 4 L's. I think Burns would appreciate the alliteration. Interesting, isn't it, that the world has other poets of renown, other writer heroes, but they are not afforded the veneration and adoration that we give to Robert Burns. The English have Shakespeare, the Irish have Joyce, the Americans have Longfellow, the Chinese have Confucius. All are internationally known and respected, but none of them have an evening in their honor every year. None of them have a supper. This phenomenon is particularly curious, isn't it, when you think about how we think about Scots and the national character traits that we have as Scots, that we associate with Scots. We're hardworking, we're inventive, we're philosophical, we're stoic, and we're scientific. In fact, Scots have invented, among other things, and you probably know this, the steam engine, logarithms, television, radar, the hypodermic syringe, Dolly the cloned sheep, and the list goes on. But we are here tonight celebrating a poet. Why? Because Robert Burns is everyman. He is humankind personified, and he was a damn good writer. And Scots love their patter. Robert Burns is able to put our innermost thoughts and feelings to rhyme and to music. Burns was born in Alloway, Ayrshire, on January 25th, 1759, and we celebrate his birth, not his death. His family were farmers, but there is evidence from later writing that Burns was read widely and had a knowledge of Latin. So he was a farm boy, but he was a literate farm boy. At age 24, Robert fathered his first child, born to his mother's serving girl, Betty Patton. However, also in the same year, he hooked up with Jean Armour. And for this, he was censured by the Kirk and had to spend time on the cuddy stool in front of the congregation, branded as a fornicator. Our Robbie was not doing well at this point in his life. He was renting a farm with his brother, but they were largely unsuccessful. And Jean's father was not happy with the common law arrangement and tried to scuttle that. So Burns decided to take a job as an overseer on a Jamaica plantation. In order to raise money for the passage, he publishes a volume of poems that he'd been working on for some years. This volume of poetry was unexpectedly successful, so much so that instead of sailing for the West Indies, he went to Edinburgh, and he became the chief literary celebrity of the season, lionized by the Scottish nobility. His fame as a poet somewhat subdued the wrath of the Armours, so he was able to go ahead and officially wed Jean and start his married life as a farmer. But over the next 3 years, he published several more poetry editions and put words to many Scots tunes. Farming didn't go so well, though, so he still needed to make some money, so he became an exciseman working for the government. After that, he became a soldier, but famine in Dumfries proved too much, and destitute and in debt, Burns passed away in 1796. And by the way, his 12th child was born 3 days later. Well, those are the basic facts. But in addition to what was going on in his personal life, Scotland and England had been forced together by the Union of the Crowns. The Jacobite rebellion had failed. The Industrial Revolution was remaking society. The French Revolution was shattering the continent of Europe. And the Scottish Enlightenment was provoking new and radical thought. So all of this taken together compelled Burns to write fervently and frequently about what my AI engine revealed as the 4 L's: life, liberty, lassies, and love. When he writes about life in general, Burns never forgot his humble roots. He was a farmer's son, after all, despite achieving some fame and notoriety, and his writing highlighted the plight of the poor and cried out for greater social equality. To Burns, all are born equal, and one's worth should not depend on the weight of one's purse or the size of his acreage, a concept we might nowadays call equanimity or equality. He genuinely deplored the fact that we did not treat all with respect as humans. He was a fierce spokesman for equality and for justice. He wrote, for example, "Man's inhumanity to man makes countless thousands mourn." And so, in one of his most famous poems, To a Mouse, he elegantly makes the point that all of God's creatures are equal and worthy of respect. In this poem, Burns points out that a mouse, whose nest he's overturned with his plow, is similar to his own desperate existence as a poor tenant farmer, and that two beings with so much in common should not have anything to fear from each other. Listen, "We sleekit, cowering, timorous beastie. Oh, what a panic's in thy breastie. Thou need not start away sae hasty with bicker and brattle. I would be laith to rin and chase thee with murder and prattle. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union and justifies that ill opinion which makes thee startle at me, thy poor earth-born companion and fellow mortal." And just as famously, Burns pressed the coming of 19th century socialism, espousing again the principles of equanimity and equality when he wrote, "A man's a man for all that." Then let us pray that come it may, as come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth shall bear the gree and all that. For all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that man to man the world o'er shall brithers be for all that. And finally, about life and humanness and equanimity, he wrote in another line that you likely know in his poem, To a Louse, "Oh, would some power the gifty gie us to see ourselves as others see us." The louse doesn't observe distinctions and regards all human beings equally as potential hosts. Don't you wish we all had that gift? Still, Burns is a realist, and his life was lived out, as I pointed out, in a time of great change. And so you can see how recent history and current affairs color his thinking and his writing. He has some built-up angst about Scottish history, and thus anxiety about the future. You can see evidence of this later on in To a Mouse, when he writes, "But Mousie, thou art know thy lane, improving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men oft gang away, and leave us naught but grief and pain for promised joy. Still thou art blessed compared with me. The present only touches thee, but I backward cast my ee on prospects drear, and forward, though I cannot see, I guess and fear." This is Burns at his best, expressing the heart of the human condition, thinking and feeling common to us all, worrying about things we've done in the past but cannot change or control, and also fearful of things that are uncertain and unknown and not yet realized. Speaking of the past, you can tell that Burns was a proud and sometimes bitter Scot and nationalist. He saw the 1707 Union of Parliaments as the moneyed classes selling out to the English and making Scots less than equal. And so he mourned the loss of Scottish identity. This potential loss of Scottishness coupled with the impending French Revolution, I think, also made him think deeply about liberty and about independence. Listen to some lines from Such a Parcel of Rogues in a Nation. Farewell to our Scottish fame, farewell our ancient glory, farewell even to the Scottish name, so famed in martial story. Oh, would or I had seen the day that treason could sell us. My old grey head had lean in clay with Bruce and loyal Wallace. But pith and power, till my last hour, I make this declaration, we're bought and sold for English gold. Such a parcel of rogues in a nation. All this thinking about life and liberty might best be summed up in his poem called The Tree of Liberty. He wrote, with plenty of such trees I trow, the world would live in peace, man. The sword would help to make a plow. The din of war would cease, man. Well, life and liberty are, of course, big and meaty, all-world issues. But for Burns, and for many of us, there are interesting things and ideas and humans right next door, you might say. And so, yeah, let's be honest, Burns' affection for women was unabashed. That unabashed love of women was expressed passionately through his short life, with many of his works written with women as the focal point. A great admirer of women from an early age, Burns' first romantic encounter at the age of 15 prompted the start of many love poems, letters, and songs. It also prompted the start of 12 children. So look, yes, Burns was quite likely in love with Jean Armour, his only bride, who bore him 2 sets of twins before they were married, and was the inspiration for his poem, A Wife's a Winsome Wee Thing. But he wrote about many, many other lassies, including, in fact, I should say, if your name is Anna, Allison, Katie, Mary, Jeannie, Cloris, Clorinda, Nancy, Nell, Molly, Polly, Peggy, Bessie, Jessie, Eliza, Maria, Delia, and maybe some others you've missed, you have an eponymous Burns poem. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's life, there's liberty, there's lassies, but what is it that really makes us human? What was Burns best at writing about? It's that ability to love. It's the 4th L. That Burns, again, is able to describe and articulate and word paint about love as no other could. In Oh, Were I on Parnassus Hill, he wrote to Jean Armour, then come, sweet muse, inspire my lay, for all the long summer's day. I could not say how much, how dear I love thee. I see thee dancing o'er the green, thy waist I gim, thy limbs say gleam, thy tempting lips, thy roguish een, by heaven and earth, I love thee. Or listen to Burns present the perfect arc of a love affair in My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. Undying love, yet sorrow in parting. He's especially good at this. Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that's sweetly played in June. So far, so fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gone dry. Till all the seas gone dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun, I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. And fare thee well, my only love, and fare thee well a while. I will come again, my love, though it were 10,000 miles. So in closing, I'll leave you with this. Our Robbie, our bard, he was a complicated man who lived a life of contrast, of contradiction, of passion, and of poetry. As I've mentioned, he wrote exquisitely and elegantly and masterfully about life, about liberty, about lassies, and about love. But the greatest of these, and I'm sure Burns would agree with this, the greatest of these is love. So, looping back to where we started, I used an artificial intelligence tool, an AI, called ChatGPT, recently published by a company called OpenAI. It's a model with more than 175 million parameters, and it has been trained with large amounts of text to perform language-related tasks from text generation to language translation. So I asked it this: write a poem about love in the style of Robert Burns. This is what the AI wrote. Love, love, a force so strong, it can lift us up or bring us down. A feeling like no other, a fire that burns, a bond that ties us through joys and turns. It can lift us up to the stars above or drag us down its depths of love. It can bring us happiness and glee or heartache and pain for all to see. But still we seek it, still we crave this emotion that can lift or enslave. For love is worth the risk, the pain, for in its depths we find ourselves again. So let us embrace this feeling bold and follow its path as stories are told. For love is a gift, a treasure rare, worth all the joys and all the care. So what did you think?
Not a worthy competitor for... Thank you, but not really a worthy competitor for our bard, I don't think. I mean, it doesn't sing like it would if Burns had wrote it. I think Burns would find this, well, artificial. But Burns is one of the reasons why I'm proud to be a Scot. With all that massive contradictions that goes into this complex identity, we might be stoic on the outside, but we all like to think that we have a bit of that poet's soul inside us, a hidden romantic side, and Burns helps us to see that it's okay to express that, to let it flourish from time to time, like tonight. I'm very proud to give you this toast, the proudest toast for any Scot to propose, a toast which we should drink with joy and pride, with reverence and irreverence in equal measure, a toast to life, to liberties, to lassies, and to love. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lassies, please be upstanding with charged glasses. Join me now in drinking a right good Willy Watt to love and to the immortal memory of our bard, Robert Burns. Sláinte